Are you ready? I wonder if you know how they dress in Tokyo. If he write it, then you read it, then you know he no Nigo. Ametora, trip, trip, trip. Ametora, trip. Trip, trip. Throw gang, we are joined by the nonfiction pharaoh, the imam of Ivy. Last name Marx, no Carl, so you know he copping that capital, and the production is mean. Like serving a dude martinis, we got this guy Jin. He got status and culture, you a small-foused vulture. Pen floating on the page, that's a Tokyo drift. He dropping bombs in Ametora like Tora, Tora, Tora. He know Nigo, you know weak hose. Oh, he's a Japanese translator? Bet. Oh, you don't fuck with cultural critics? How about you cultural critical these nuts? His whole life at W, he can't even pronounce L's. Author of Ametora, How Japan Saved American Style, and Status and Culture, How Our Desire for Social Rank Creates Taste, Identity, Art, Fashion, and Constant Change. W. David Marx. W. David Marx, how the hell are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Genki desu ka?
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, is this
You're not going to talk with me in Japanese?
You know, I'm in when in America.
Okay.
I finally
appreciate
get a
English
chance to
personally.
speak some English. Yeah,
Do you like get rusty with English?
not anymore. There was a point probably where I did because I was more immersed.
What's the longest streak you've gone not speaking English?
I mean, never more than a day. I think the internet, like when I would go to Japan before the internet really took off, I felt a little more isolated.
Okay.
But you know.
Now you come back and you're like, what does Riz mean?
Yeah, no, I know more of that than I think I should. But then once in a while, there's probably this I'm always fascinated with where it comes from, but there's like this black hole of things I don't know. And it's always like Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh,
Your cultural blind spot are the blue collar kings of comedy or the blue collar comedy tour.
Like, it's like Larry the Cable Guy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So what is this Larry the Cable Guy?
you might be a redneck if.
And then I try to like
Jeff Foxworthy.
overcompensate. But yeah, I know Riz is.
Well, thank you for flying all the way here from Tokyo, Japan,
just
to come on the only podcast that matters.
That was super tight of you, dude. We appreciate it.
Yeah, flying out tonight.
Yeah, for real.
One day.
This is so you're gonna leave here all amped up and just hop on a 14-hour flight?
Yeah, 14 is nothing to me anymore.
In and out, SEAL team fits, baby. That's the way we like to do it here.
Yeah, you got to come when it's fresh. So
we're going to call you David. That's cool.
That's what my name is. So
David, great to see you. The first thing we want to do. Well, actually, do you want to tell the people what the W stands for? We already
W
asked.
stands for William, and it was given to me in honor of my grandfather, but he was Billy.
Okay.
And my parents did not want me to be Billy.
Why not?
Because it's Billy. And so, now like Williams are
Willie,
maybe Willie, but like back in the day it was Billy. So I was going to be Billy. And so they gave me William and they called me David. And then I got to college and like my email was assigned W Marx and nobody knew who it was. And there was another David Marx. And so that guy got all my emails. So I did W David Marx just as a kind of like way to differentiate myself.
Gotcha.
And then as an author, it also is helpful because there's like 10 other David Marxes doing stuff in the world.
There's another Marx that I think was a pretty popular author.
Yeah, I think he might have got mentioned in the intro.
Capital with a C.
I think his titles were a bit shorter, though, a bit more concise. I think his editor was like, maybe cut out a couple of those words, bro.
Yeah, he sold a lot better than I did. Too.
Oh, yeah?
Well,
from a commercial standpoint.
Not after this pod.
Yeah, he never came on Throwing Fits, which always starts off with a
Did you even invite him?
You know what? He's a little busy.
Yeah. Yeah, Billy, let's get right into a fit check, bro.
Okay, yes, sir.
Why don't you tell us everything that you wore today to the pod?
So this shirt is a brand called Clout, which is designed by the stylist Akio Hasegawa, who is the guy, if you know, you know, but he is the stylist who used to be at Popeye, and he invented the big fit.
Wow.
And so there was a Times Magazine story about big fit starting in 2020. No, it's 2016 with Popeye. Akio Hasegawa, and he had been the creative director for Nautica as well recently. And then, so he moved over and has his own brands called Clout, and this is where the shirt's from. And then I've got under this a white undershirt from Yonatomi, which is a Japanese knitwear company from Yamagata.
I hope everyone's writing this down.
Yeah, I was
this
going to say, take notes, people.
New,
this whole podcast, by the way, is just going to be full of, if you know, Japanese darts.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a reference for later.
For you, it's just regular shit.
You don't want to listen to this
like,
at 0.5 speed.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got time to transcribe.
So the undershirt, once again, sorry?
Yonatomi. And the pants are from a Japanese brand called Tsuki, Tuki, out of Okayama, who do a lot of, this is like a baker pant. So it's like they do a lot of military repro, but that's not like strict repro. It's just, They take the idea,
they riff
on it,
they interpolate.
Really great twill, great materials. I think these socks are Fruit of the Loom.
Okay.
Undershirt Hanes. No,
Yeah.
just I got it at Target. When I go home, I go to Target. And then
The first stop.
You don't fuck with Uniqlo socks?
Yeah. Muji?
They don't fit. So I wear size 13 shoes.
Nice.
And they do not make socks for
Congrats on your penis, Billy.
Do they make, I mean, shopping in Japan must be tough. How tall are you?
6'4".
You should have been a hooper.
Yeah.
But that's like point guard size in the NBA.
Yeah. But like, is it hard finding clothing that fits you in Japan?
When
like, is this supposed to be oversized, but it just fits you normally?
No, so when Tom Brown super fit stuff was in slim fit, then everything was like, oh, a little too small, but hey, it works because pants are supposed
those are
to be
shorts
small.
on those pants are literally shorts on you, dude.
Yeah. And then when everything in big fit, it's like great. Now it actually fits. So I can't buy shoes. That's the one thing. So when I come home to the US, I get shoes.
So what are the shoes?
These are New Balance. What are these? You tell me. They're like,
what's the number?
I can't see.
574s? Yeah, 574s.
Yeah, there you go.
Classic.
I need, with age, I like walking, but you get a plantar fasciitis. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
I have foot pain, and so I got to wear sneakers.
Got to go to Dr. Stretch.
I do need.
That guy rules.
Did he buy any sneakers on this trip?
Not on this trip. No.
Okay.
What are the panties?
Yeah.
Brooks Brothers.
Oh, whoa.
Oxford traditional fit. Like the old man boxers.
Yes.
Wow. You're on the list, bro.
Here we go.
So James keeps a running list of all of the boxer wears as a boxer wearer himself.
Okay.
Yep.
But these are like these are the high rise old man, like the same Oxford cost as the shirts.
It is
white
a prestigious
and blue.
List. Beautiful. Honestly, I would love like those as like jammies. I don't know if those would be my daily drivers personally, but yeah, okay.
Wow,
you're on the list. Wow, dude, this list has been
John
growing.
Teets and Ben Solomon.
Wow.
And Ace Rothstein in Casino.
There's also fictional characters on the list.
Great.
Tony Soprano, Reynolds Woodcock. And you're sipping on some just simple, still water.
Yeah. What do people
simple
choose
guy.
normally?
Whatever
usually
they
like
want.
seltzers, usually like or like maybe like an energy drink if they're running around all day.
But I feel like if it's got effervescence, then you're burping during the podcast.
Yes. That might be a personal problem.
Okay, that's a personal problem for me. So
yeah. Okay.
I try to keep it. I was fired from my own books on tape.
Really? I noticed this because I looked up. I wanted to read some 1-star reviews off Amazon, but you didn't really have any.
Oh, damn.
And the book was narrated by someone else.
Yeah, they got someone. They're like, we want someone who's even nerdier than you.
Wow.
To narrate this.
And less gaseous.
I was supposed to do like 63 pages a day. It was like the super tight schedule. And I showed up, and the first day we did like 5 because I'd be like, so the sociologist stopped. Sorry, do it again. Stop. It's sociologist, not sociologist.
Oh, wow.
They were so writing me. And so we did 4 pages, and then it was over a weekend.
Plantar.
Yeah, exactly.
And language is a living document.
And I got there on Monday. Basically they woke up on Monday. They're like, you're fired. Were
you relieved? Low key?
Yeah, it was really hard. And
Sounds
it was the middle of the summer, and I was in this little booth that had no air conditioning because of the sound. And so you would just go in and try to do 30 minutes before you roll
so
out.
reading W. David Marx confirmed hard.
Sorry?
It is hard to read your book. Is what you're
yes. And there's this famous cliche with books on tape where you start it and you're like, who wrote this shit? and apparently like I have a world record for like sentence 3. I was like,
really?
Yeah. It just wasn't, it's like, I don't write to talk, it's like, it's
right.
So anyway,
you write to write.
Exactly.
A writer's writer.
Anyway, but the point is I could never do seltzer while I'm
I just burped into the mic. I hope everyone caught that. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of the only podcast matter. Speaking of writing your books, you literally wrote the book on this topic with Ametora.
Yep.
But in a nutshell, can you just tell us why do the Japanese do American menswear better than Americans?
So it's 2 things. It's first of all, the Japan, and you don't want to just say like Japan is like the entire country, but there's a bunch of people with a craftsperson mindset who have done everything better. So like if you want Neapolitan pizza, it's great. If you want the craft beer now is great, whiskey, whatever. So there's a whole pattern of imported things that people bring a craftsperson mindset to. Then the second is just the particular historical quirk that in the 60s, this one businessman was like, I got to sell clothes to young people. I can't find a style that doesn't make them look like juvenile delinquents. And then he finds Ivy League style. And he's like, that's it. And then that's basically the birth of Japanese menswear. And so it just happens to be this American traditional stuff where it all started. And then that spun out and brought us to today. So the craftsperson mindset is key.
Craftsperson mindset versus like the more capitalist mindset, which is like cutting every corner, squeezing every cent out of every step of the process. Yeah. Sucking the soul out for the sake of the bottom line. Exactly. And America, baby.
And the thing,
God bless her.
I hate explanations of culture that are like in 1734, this famous prince did this, but
who the fuck wrote this shit?
Yeah, exactly. There is though this thing in medieval Japan where there was a hierarchy that was like, God ordained hierarchy where it was aristocrats, samurai, farmers, craftspeople, merchants. And the most important thing kind of in Japanese culture is that being a craftsperson is higher than being a merchant. So if you make stuff, you want to position yourself as a craftsperson, not as a merchant. So you want to not look like you're cutting corners. You want to look like, oh, I don't even care about making money from this. I'm just trying to make the best thing possible.
Is there a Japanese term for this commitment to excellence mindset?
There's
the grind.
Monotsukuri is this word that means making things. It just literally means making things, but it's become kind of glorified to mean this the mindset of really caring about the thing you make. But
I mean, honestly, like being in a store and just seeing someone like when they wrap a shirt for you, like the way they just fold the wrapping paper and place it in the bag. I'm like, that was inspiring. That makes you want to go home and write the best fucking dumb email I'm ever going to write, asking for whatever, like some
free sneakers.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, but I have one and I can give my example if it helps jog your, gets the wheels turning. But do you have a favorite example of how everything in Japan is simply better than everything in America?
The subway, the trains,
public transportation.
I mean, I was quite surprised because Google Maps would say something like, "Oh, get the 240 from 51st Street or whatever," and it actually did come on time. Like there are times, and New York's gotten better about that. But in Japan, it's like someone will get fired if someone will quit if the train's like 1 minute late. But so everything is super precise. Everything's clean. You would, if there was like a really nice cookie that fell on a seat, you would eat the cookie. I wouldn't say that about
So in Japan, the 5-second rule is actually like, it's an infinite.
Yeah, it's like 50 seconds.
Also, everyone gets out of the way and lets people exit the train before stepping on.
Yes.
Step to the middle of the car.
Yes.
My favorite example is immediately when you land at Narita or Haneda or whatever airport, at the baggage carousel, there's a line like 2 feet actually away from like the carousel itself, and people stand behind that line. And the line exists also on the subway. So, keep your feet like behind this line so people have room to like stand. But by standing behind the line, everyone can now, when their bag arrives, step up and take their bag versus you get back to New York, everyone's like, yo, get the fuck out of my way, bro. My fucking shit's coming first.
Some kid is riding it, some fucking bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've been on a subway train in New York where someone breaks into the announcer's booth and does fake announcements.
Oh, well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's never happened to me in Japan.
That's awesome, though.
I've had a Gatorade poured on my head in the Essex Street
what color?
Station. Maybe orange. That's never happened to me in Japan. I've had... I was on the JMZ platform in Williamsburg, and someone in one of the high rises nearby was slingshotting eggs at all of us on the platform. That's never happened in Japan.
Breakfast.
Yeah. So, I love New York though.
Yeah. God bless her.
Let's go back to menswear though. What are some of the biggest differences that stand out to you between like the culture surrounding American menswear and the culture surrounding Japanese menswear?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things is there used to be no culture of American menswear, right? I mean, that's new. You were the first generation, right?
You're welcome.
Much, yeah.
And when I worked down the street, 2001 to 2003, and there was streetwear, and streetwear was still really niche. Like this was pre Pharrell and Kanye and all that. So
it's like A-Life era.
Yeah. So like A-Life Irving Club was a big deal.
The map that you put on Twitter.
Yeah, basically. That was it. And you would go to Supreme and you'd walk into Supreme and then they wouldn't help you.
They would treat you like shit.
Yeah. But there was a bouncer at Supreme.
They dump a gator under your head.
Yeah. It was probably those guys. I don't know if I've revealed this on a podcast before, but there was a point when I was in New York, it was probably 2003, where I was was extorted is maybe the right word, but like the Supreme staff pushed me into a corner and got $20 out of me.
Really?
Yeah.
What, they like stuffed you in a locker?
Got bullied?
Yeah, basically, like I opened the door and the guy kind of spilled his drink, and I don't remember if he really did, but he's like, "Hey, you got to buy me a new drink," and I was like,
"That was a $20 Coke."
I was like, "I'm an intern, man." And I'm like, "Really?" Wow. And then he's like, "Hey," and then like they backed me into a corner until I was like, "Here's your $20."
Yo, James Jebby, I know VF Corp. Send it VF Corp an invoice.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
Gatorade swirlies and getting stuffed into a box logo locker.
Yes,
the David Marx story.
And now, if they did it to me now, I'd just pay up earlier and not go through the humiliation.
Yeah, sure.
But the point was there was no menswear. And then in Japan, it's like the first time I went, it was like, why is everyone dressed so well? And what was interesting is my thought was, well, America will never have this because clothing is too, I don't know if it's gay coded or women coded or whatever, but it's like heterosexual guys can't be into clothing. That was like some
not wrong, Billy
rule. Yeah. And it was just fascinating, like 2007 and 8 to see the rise of fashion blogs. It's like, oh, this is all coming to the US. So Japan was just in it longer. Yeah. And now it's like all a melange where you can't really tell. But
how online are Japanese menswear, enthusiasts, or the Japanese John's enthusiasts? Like, are they like obsessed with fit pics and Instagram and like
some
how
of them,
we kind of are?
Yeah. Some of them, but like it's just nicer. It's like less.
Everything's better, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's just less aggro. It's more like, I don't know. This is nice. What do you think?
It feels less online.
It does fit. I mean, the main thing is the bulk of it is still physical and retail based and not e-commerce based. And so it's different. And I mean, the other thing too is that what made American style cool was that it was a bunch of people who weren't into clothing who wore cool clothing. Like you think about Ivy League style in the 60s, the whole point where they weren't like, oh, where'd you get that button down from? ID. So
my dad.
It was just like a bunch of people like, I don't know, you go to the campus shop and you just, this is all they have.
Right.
And Japan was very much more like, it was intentional. Right. And the US has now become more intentional where it's like, you go to menswear parties and people are like, let's talk about menswear. And the whole point used to be you dress up in order to go to a thing. Or you dress up to express yourself. You don't dress up because you're part of a subculture.
So are we now here more intentional than our Japanese counterparts? If you had to kind of like, not to make it a competition, but
I think like there's not that many menswear guys who are young. There's like a lot of young guys who just dress well, but I think there's actually not as many.
So just actually cool.
People who are like, like I have a Tumblr and like that kind of stuff doesn't exist as much.
Is it acquisition based as much over there as it is here? Where it's like he who has the most stuff wins
what he does.
Well, I think there's like a normal person isn't there, but then there's the mega collectors.
Sure, yeah.
Like I went to someone's place the other day and they had like, I don't know, 1,000 pairs of Nikes.
Sick.
And
in their home, in their tiny little,
and like it was in this warehouse.
Literally?
Like his father was like some sort of wholesaler, and they just had this empty warehouse. Now it's full of shoes and things.
What's that famous photo essay series of Japanese collectors of like their favorite brands, right?
Yeah, I forget.
Fanatics or something. Yeah. It's like, but it's all like this person collects comb. This person, there's someone with like all these like Gucci horse bits and yeah.
And then like Nigo's got everything.
Right. And his house is a museum.
And he has all sorts of stuff where you didn't even know it existed. Because I thought like, oh, he's going to just have 501s or whatever. And it's like, oh no, I have all these categories of clothes that no one's seen. And
the first pair of jeans ever.
He's like really into Peanuts sweaters. And so he has all the Peanut sweaters.
Oh, like Snoopy and
like Snoopy.
Charlie Brown.
That's his current obsession.
All these that's a long hell obsession. Or he has all these like Butterfinger salesman from the 1930s jackets or something. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. So I think the like mega collectors just beat out everybody.
Yeah.
But then like the normal person isn't quite there anymore. And just like, I don't know, just wears.
But those collectors too, it's coming from such a pure, honest, sincere place of enthusiasm, not about like flexing. Yeah. Like kind of what, we have like, over here. To
also not to go into the oldies, but fuck yeah, menswear had such an aggressive edge to it that you would never see in Japan, right? You wouldn't see someone shitting on Alan Edmonds.
Yeah, my bad.
But when I saw that, I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, I can't believe somebody understands this so well to have to have these views.
Whatever genius like co-wrote that book. I think he just needed to get laid.
It's still anonymous. I think
he just needed to get laid, to be honest.
Great, Kevin Burrows and someone else.
Great picture book.
Have you had Menswear Shiba on yet, or heard about the Menswear Dog?
No.
Have you had Menswear Dog on?
I remember that guy.
That guy, he outsells every other menswear author.
Really?
Urban Outfitters #1 bestseller.
Are you jealous of a dog, David?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have, bigger audience.
Those Shibu sales. You mentioned how a lot of the culture and scene is rooted in the physical and the retail.
Yeah.
And that's like immediately obvious when you go there. It's not about, just Instagram. What are, in your opinion, the best stores in Tokyo?
I mean, it's really hard because the scope and the scale of Japanese retail is just like 10x everywhere else, right? I mean, New York's caught up. I mean, New York's got a lot more, but
we are doing okay.
We're so back.
Gian De Leon was in Tokyo, I don't know, 6 months ago or something.
Yeah.
We went to Koenji, which is like the vintage store district. And you think it's the vintage store district. So it's got like, I don't know, 20 or 30 shops. And it must have like 100. And by like store number 40, you're just like, I can't do anymore. And they had one that
not
was
another M65, please.
but there's like one that was only vintage Brooks Brothers, vintage polo, vintage J Press.
So they're specialized.
They all specialize, and he really wanted to find this place called Chill Weeb, which is it only sells vintage anime shirts. Like, this is a hot store right now, and they're like $1,500 Akira shirts or something. The craziest store in Tokyo and maybe the world, the menswear store. It's called Softs, SOFTS. It's in Kichijoji. It's on the roof of this building, and it's like he only sells menswear that you've never seen anywhere else, and it's all ridiculous. It's like,
is it vintage?
Some of it's vintage, and some of it's like his own weird collaborations with Swiss military beret companies. And like if you want a normal beret, don't go there. If you want a giant size beret, they have
for your big ass head.
If you want a hat that says "Made in China" on it that was made in the USA, that's the place to go to.
Oh, okay.
So that store is crazy and great. But then, I mean, where I shop is like Beams Plus. Beams Plus is just so reliable and great. And
is that your go-to Beams? I mean, because there's 1,000 of them.
Yeah, Beams Plus does the traditional stuff. Okay. And
you're not a Beams boy?
Beams Boys for girls.
Beams Boys for girls?
Yeah.
What?
So Beams Boy is like the trad line for women. It's like the Beams Plus for girls.
Okay. I've been buying my clothes at the girls shop.
Yeah.
They're like, why the fuck is this guy doing here again?
So Beams is like your, I don't know, just kind of middle of the road. But is that like, because Beams, here it's like, oh shit, Beams, goated, whatever. Yeah. But is it more kind of mainstream, middle of the road?
It's not mainstream. It's just reliable, and they have a lot of basics like button downs that are always the same every year and great.
But if you also want to get weird and freaky and go to a store that specializes in gigantic berets, boy, do I have a place for you.
Softs. So, there's a range.
Softs gets me hard.
The vintage is also like, there's probably 4 or 5 stores in my own neighborhood that I don't know the names of.
Really?
But have the most amazing collection of early 1990s Ralph Oxfords in like really crazy colors. And they have an infinite supply of them. If you can't find them in the United States, because they're all on the street.
Yeah.
But like, I don't even know what the names of these stores are, because there's just so many of them, and they're all probably owned by the same company.
Yeah. Have you gotten numb to like living in a menswear clothing shopping paradise, or are you still like blown away every single time you walk into a store like Softs?
You just have to have more discipline, because I have this long-standing emotional complex, which is I hate buying things I don't use.
Right.
It makes me feel bad. So like, if I see a shirt and I'm like, I gotta get that, I start feeling bad for the other shirts that are gonna get pushed.
I totally know how you feel.
Yeah. Clothes have feelings too.
Yeah. And like, I don't know.
They're sentient beings.
And so I think that tempers a little bit. I'll be ooh, and then
so you're emotional yet efficient.
Yes.
Your heart and head.
That's what I try to do. And then also,
wait, is this Shintoism? Did you feel this way before you moved to Japan?
I felt this way before I moved to Japan. I don't believe that there are spirits in all my clothing. I just
feelings.
I just feel like it's a waste to buy a shirt that just sits in the
and
closet.
You're not wrong.
And the other problem is that, okay, so almost all my shirts are button down Oxford cloth shirts. And then I'm like, okay, I got white, I got blue, I got pink, I got the Oxford stripes. Oh, I want the Oxford stripe in pink. And now I need this with a club collar or whatever. So you start fleshing it out, and then you're like, oh, I need this in orange stripe.
Right.
And then you get it in orange stripe, and you're like, when the fuck am I going to wear this? It doesn't match
like
anything.
Fucking clown.
Yeah.
Well,
and
unless it's a throwing fit.
No,
shirt.
but I was thinking of a club collar Oxford version, not what we just sold out. Thank you again to
Yes.
everybody who bought.
the peach.
and so then it's like, is this just to collect and to open my closet and be like, hey, it's like Skittles, or is it instead
Taste the
to
rainbow,
actually
motherfucker.
wear? And what you realize is like, I wear white and blue probably 4 out of 7 days. So why am I going out to buy, like, I'm gonna get this purple that I'm never gonna put on?
But New Year's Eve comes but once a year. Has moving to Japan, like, how long have you been in Japan full time?
21 years.
Whew. But your style was kind of rooted in like growing up in the South, growing up in like an academic context, and like being into like traditional American sportswear and Ivy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, it's complicated because as a kid, I was wearing that stuff and hated it.
Okay.
And so, there's all these photos that I'm able to pull out now to be like, look at me in a tweed blazer and Sebago campsides. And like, I'm interviewed for Japanese magazines, and I can show these and be like, look how authentic I am. Wearing this. But at the same time, at 14, I like just wanted to be cool with the grunge kids.
Right.
And they're like, go away. Yeah, nice try khaki.
Get out of here,
Like,
college boy.
He's like, no, but I've got
Joe College over here.
I don't know. I have this Dinosaur Jr. tape. We could be friends. And so, I was trying to wear band t-shirts and I don't think I started wearing jeans until I was about 18. Right. And
This man didn't feel denim on his thighs till 18.
because the other thing is like denim, I was really skinny, and all the denim that I inherited from my brother was like skin tight because it was like 80s denim. And so until like a wide fit came out, I just like didn't feel comfortable in jeans. So I
Silver tabs changed your life.
saved your life.
exactly. So then when I went to Japan, I just never thought about clothing or fashion. And then in Japan, I was like, oh, you could wear a Bathing Ape t-shirt and some like selvage denim and some Adidas Superstars. And now it's fashion,
Right.
with a capital F. So that got me into streetwear, and I was wearing streetwear, and then the streetwear kind of merged into maybe APC, APC. And then that kind of, when Tom Brown came out, I was like, oh, I know all that. I grew up on all that.
Right.
And then that like became a Trojan horse for me to get back.
All the
into
reference points
trad
were already
stuff.
there when you were
Yeah.
yelling at your mom for dressing you up like a nerd.
Yeah, and then also like all the fits from the 90s were so big that they actually started fitting.
Right.
By the time I picked them back up in like 2008. So,
But moving to Japan did kind of like blow your mind wide open to the possibilities of
because where were you going to get it?
Infinity.
Yeah. And like on college campuses, nobody dresses up. Like I'm sure college kids now dress much better than they did when I was there.
Think so?
But
They're probably
barely
in
do.
fucking Zara, dude.
Yeah. But it's like I don't know. Young people, I feel like try a little bit harder, or they at least
Maybe.
know.
Well, the camera's on them 24/7.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like when we were in college where that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, in America, there was like no. I mean, I talk about this a lot, but I watched a lot of MTV. I'm from Pensacola, Florida. Like, there's no local exposure to culture, so I'm
Panhandle,
watching
baby.
MTV all the time,
Right.
and I watch almost everything on MTV, and then House of Style would come on
Yeah.
with Cindy Crawford. I'd be like, click, like this is. I don't care about this runway.
Mom, don't bother me.
collection.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
So I did not watch. I just thought fashion was like not related to me.
Right. You've mentioned, the latest one you just mentioned, Bathing Ape. You mentioned, I don't know, just
Beams.
a bunch of legendary Japanese brands.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now.
Yeah.
And maybe should have given you this question ahead of time.
Yeah.
What are your favorite Japanese brands of all time?
All time.
Let's Mount Rushmore it. So top the best 4 unranked.
Well, okay. So the thing about Mount Rushmore is these are presidents who were not living at the same time. So I think we can go by era too, right?
Oh, sure.
So
Or you could blow wide open, just name them.
It's almost like this guy's
you got to
smart.
put Van Jacket on there. So whether
Okay,
Van
sure.
Jacket today is good or not, Van Jacket was the first menswear
What it
brand. He's the
represents.
George Washington.
Yeah.
And the most influential.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you got to put Van Jacket on there.
That was 50s, 40s, 60s. Okay.
60s. I think it technically started in 48, but it's 60s. Ooh, maybe put Beams on there just for the West Coast side of it and everything they've done. For denim, this is getting hard.
You don't have to keep it a 4. Yeah. What's your favorite Japanese?
I mean,
denim
like
brand?
Bathing Ape. Again, it's like, the thing about fashion is that not every brand can last forever, be cool forever, right? And
Right.
I mean, Come to Garçon's incredible that it's been cool forever.
Or Yoji, right?
Yeah, but Yoji had a bankruptcy period, right? And
That doesn't mean it wasn't cool.
Yeah,
Well, I guess people
it
aren't
kind of
buying
dipped.
it.
There was like a dip, but like Ray Kawakubo just became a god, and then
Right.
it's been that way since. But Bathing Ape, like at the time, that no one had seen anything like that, and so Hiroshi Fujiwara, who was Nigo's mentor, like he dipped in, he had good enough, but he sees himself like as a musician, not as like a menswear guy.
You're talking about like fragment designs, like
fragments later, and he had
Burton.
Sorry,
He was at Burton.
he does stuff with Burton, and
He's had 24 brands.
Yeah.
Can't even name them all.
but Bathing Ape was
The
the one
pool.
where it's like,
I mean, he was HTM too.
This is taking the Stussy model and blowing it out,
Right.
So that one's hard to ignore. I guess Yoji and Come to Garçon for the 80s.
Do you have a favorite Japanese denim brand?
I wear Tsuki, the people who made the pants I'm wearing now, they do denim, and I wear that a bunch. I mean, APC is interesting because I wore APC denim all the time, and that's Kaihara denim. So they were one of the first brands globally to make a big deal out of we're using
To use
Japanese
that
denim.
mill.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
yet he
what
posted
is
that-
truly Japanese?
And yet he posted that racist meme about cherry blossoms.
Yes, he did. That
Oh,
was
I don't
crazy.
know. Sorry, am I?
It was pre-cancel culture, so he skated, but
Okay.
he definitely
Am I
offended a lot.
canceled now because
No,
I wore?
he is.
No.
Okay.
Jean Dudu.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of denim. Like, Orslo is a brand I've never worn, but every time I see their stuff, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Like, I was in London. I did an event with Jason Jules, who did Black Ivy,
Mhm.
and we were walking around the Clutch Cafe store, which is pretty cool in London. And there was like a beautiful sweater, and I was like, "That's such a great sweater." And he's like, "But it's a sign of maturity when you can look at a sweater and say, that's a great sweater, but I don't have to have this."
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Or it's not for me.
Yeah,
What was
and
the
there's like
brand
a-
of the sweater?
I forget what it was. It was just really bright and
Okay.
and like yellow, and it was beautiful, but I don't need to wear it. And so I think it's the same with like a lot of Japanese denim brands. Like, that's great, but I don't need to own this.
Yeah. I don't need
So-
the fucking samurai
I need
jeans.
more
Yeah, I don't
Big
need
John and
samurai jeans.
Momotaro.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
So, did we miss anyone?
I don't know. It's a hard.
I mean, by constraining it to 4, I feel like that's tough.
but I think it's like, I think that you saying Mount Rushmore,
Sorry.
that is chiseled in stone.
Yes,
you
sir.
know? And so I think that
Stolen Stone.
that made me a little.
But also, I think you went
hesitant.
most influential. I want to know what your favorite
My favorite. Yeah, I
brands
mean,
are.
I'll tell you. I mean, it's what I wear. So it's
Yeah.
like Beams Plus for the casual stuff. Kamakura Shirts does all my dress shirts.
Best in the business, baby.
Yeah,
Are they
and
still
then they do made to measure.
Kamakura?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I'm the #1 shopper of the Vintage Ivy collection of America.
Vintage Ivy is great, and they've been doing great stuff recently. But also, just I have long arms, and they do made to measure, so
Oh, there you go.
that's important. I don't know. Tsuki, it just said for the pants.
You like what you like.
Oh, there's a great brand, Scye, SCYE, that is basics.
Okay.
They're kind of there's like that zone of brands, and then I didn't talk about
The zone of interest.
It got too hot, so I couldn't wear it. But I was wearing this sweatshirt rugby hybrid that's from a brand called Adult Oriented Robes.
Wow.
Yo, great Japanese brand name.
And so
AOR.
AOR music. So he's obsessed with AOR music, which is adult oriented record. That's the record label. And so he's like on the city pop stuff. So he has
Okay.
a brand that it's like representing 80 city pop. It's like kind of athleisure.
This is such a specific reference. I
Yeah.
love it, which is
And
the
so I've been
Japanese
buying
way.
a bunch of stuff from AOR recently. It's like real big fit. It's great.
Yeah.
And that's great. So I don't know. There's just like this middle zone of brands that aren't super big. It's just great. Everyone makes great stuff. It's hard to whittle it down.
I mean-
with Visvim, it's like I don't wear
Ooh.
Visvim, but it's hard not to say Visvim's not incredible what they do.
Is Viz a Japanese brand?
How's not?
Is Hiroki is he in Japan? Or is he in America?
He's mostly, I think he's kind of split time, but
Okay.
he grew up in Japan.
Is Engineered Garments a Japanese brand?
Ooh, that one's harder.
Damn.
Nepenthe's Japanese.
I mean, I think engineered garments makes a very big deal out of being made in the USA.
I agree.
I didn't mention them at all,
Being made
but
in New York.
he's got great stuff that I wear. Hard to beat.
Yeah.
Are there any, you mentioned AOR, adult oriented robes. You mentioned Psy.
Yep.
Are there any other kind of like bubbling Japanese brands that are doing really exciting things that, everyone here knows Capital.
Yep.
Everyone here knows Viz, the go to Japanese brands, but like who are some brands that people should really start paying attention to?
There's a brand called Inoi, the Inoi Professional, ENNOY. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
It's by the stylist. That one is pretty hot right now.
Okay.
AOR, anything that Akio Hasegawa does, the stylist that he's related to. I don't know, but United Arrows and Beams, and they're
just churning out
just
classics.
Always do great stuff.
Graph paper is like hot over there right now.
That's a thing, I think. Yeah.
All the gorpy kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're more like,
and we didn't talk about like, I don't know, white mountaineering.
Sure.
And, I mean, it's infinite, right? It's hard.
It really is.
It's hard to.
It's awesome.
I mean, the thing is that when people come, like menswear guys come to Japan, I meet with them. They always have this list that I don't know any of these things, man. Like
Really?
People know more than I do being there. Because I don't know. I'm also in a groove where I'm like, I'm just going to go to these 3 places.
you know what that is? That's the flattening of status and culture, which we're going to talk about soon.
Let's do it.
But before we get there, so like, I think something that is pretty clear is that there are American subcultures that within Japan, the subculture becomes obsessed with it, whether it's like the rockabillys.
Yeah.
I just saw there's a Jamaica Day in Japan where people are fucking popping their asses and daggering. What are some American subcultures that young Japanese people right now are currently obsessed with?
Those are all really specific and out of control, and there's not that many people into it.
Right.
The rockabilly thing was I wouldn't say mainstream, but that subculture was huge in the 80s. And now there's like one of those old rockabilly dance groups that still is out there like once a month in Harajuku, and they're like literally 65.
Yeah,
good for them.
With the mohawks, like or the fucking bouffants all the way up. Yeah.
But it's just them. So it's like saying young people into that is a misnomer. And there's the people who are into the like lowrider Chicano.
Yeah.
Oh, the
culture.
cholos. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they're in Osaka or something, and that's also a small scene. So I think, most Japanese young people are pretty like normcore, and they're not.
Yeah.
Right.
They're more into K-pop.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, like I think like one of the major changes in Tokyo was that there's a neighborhood called Shin Okubo that's next to Shinjuku that was the Korean ethnic neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first was going to Tokyo, people would speak of it in this really kind of racist way of like, you don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And now it's like the hottest neighborhood in Tokyo because K-pop's so big. So it's like it feels more crowded than Harajuku sometimes, of just like young Japanese women going to have Korean sweets or eat Korean barbecue and shop at Korean cosmetics. It's really interesting.
Well, we know that South Korea has kind of become like the dominant soft culture power in East Asia with like music, obviously film,
cosmetics,
aesthetics. Does Japan still have the top spot when it comes to fashion and style, or is South Korea like, is it gaining on Japan?
This is a great question. So I think Japan still has the, it's actually kind of cool. So I think Japan and Korea are in this interesting coexistence moment where Korea kind of has the
coexist, baby.
They have the top spot for the kind of casual fashion that you can actually imitate. Like if you're in Southeast Asia and you don't have a lot of money, you can dress like what you see on Instagram from Korean influencers.
Okay.
Whereas like everything in Japan is like kind of expensive and you can't rip it off. Like people aren't wearing fake capital or something.
Right.
And so Japan kind of owns the space for high-end craft artisanal, and then Korea owns the mass pop young fun segment, and they're kind of working together. And I've seen now where there's more stuff in Korea that's imitating the Japan stuff, and then there's more stuff in Japan that's imitating the Korean stuff.
So it's a true cultural exchange.
It's like it is night and day compared to how things have been in the past. If you know about East Asian history, the Japanese colonization of Korea was not very popular in Korea, and so there's some tension there, and right now it's been diffused, and it's a really healthy cultural exchange. I don't want to be too optimistic or naive about it, but it seems really positive.
So has,
for example, one more example is Popeye magazine did a Seoul guide issue, and it was like very respectful and like this is Seoul and it's cool and you should go there. And that was the first time I think they'd ever done a Korea travel issue.
Is that like the ultimate cosign, the Popeye travel guide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't even like, oh, go backpacking and rough it. It's
Right.
like, if you're going to have a good time in Tokyo, you could also have a good time in Seoul the same way. And these are cool spots.
So the young people in exchanging fashion and aesthetics, they are the ones bridging the gap. That's called diplomacy right there.
Yeah.
They're the ones bringing peace. What about like
That's a book.
diplomacy?
Yeah. Talk to your agent.
Absolutely.
No,
My-
that's
my
for you.
agents?
That's
Yeah,
your
you
next
can-
one,
you
bro.
can- take that.
I'm working on something else.
What? So like, I think what South Korea and Seoul is doing, and this is because the fucking Samsung and LG, they have like so much money. And they're trying to make Seoul a cultural destination.
Yep.
They're literally importing fucking, whether it's Supreme, whether it's like Our Legacy, they're just like making Seoul a fashion destination. On the flip side, it is so hard to license your brand to like operate in Japan. Like, is that like, do you see anything changing in like the Japanese landscape
Have
where
you
they're
been to
looking at
Seoul
Seoul?
before?
What's that?
Have you been to Seoul?
No, never been. I really want to go.
Seoul, it's a really cool city, and it just has like a different energy than Tokyo, and it's much more youthful. And for some reason, I don't think youth are more of a part of the Korean population than Japan, but they're just like more out there. And so when you go to Seoul, you just see people on the street having fun. More.
It's vibrant.
It's very vibrant, and it offers kind of the newest global culture stuff. So if you want to go to a great cafe or craft beer place or cheesesteak place or whatever like the hot thing in New York is, they'll have it in Seoul like instantly.
Oh, wow. Fire.
So now Japan's slower at getting the new
They
stuff.
got beat at their own game.
Shit.
Yeah. And so I think Korea actually got faster at being cutting edge than
Is that the
Tokyo
government money kind of that's funding that maybe
Well, I
like
think
James
it's
is
also
talking
just
about?
the diaspora in the sense of, there's a lot of Korean Americans.
Sure.
A lot of Koreans come and study in the US and go back. Whereas Japan, Japanese students don't come to study in the US anymore. There's never been a Japanese American diaspora the same size as the Korean American diaspora. So I think some of it's just structural like that. And Korea, I don't know. I mean, I worked in tech for a while and worked on YouTube, and the Korean record label's use of YouTube was aggressive and
Ahead of its
cutting
time.
edge. And why did Gangnam Style happen? It's
True.
because they were in the habit of like put every single video on YouTube, give it subtitles, give it metadata. Like they were.
That's still the number one most viewed video on YouTube ever, or is it Despacito now?
I don't know if it still is, but it was the first to hit 2 billion.
Right.
It beat
Shout out Psy, man.
Bieber.
He's still doing his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
That viral video of him performing live is
Yeah.
incredible.
Or I saw the one recently where he was at a Dodgers game right after it came out. Do you know that? And they started playing Gangnam Style just to make people dance. And then they cut to him and he was like, nah. And then he got up and did the dance.
Yeah.
I mean, and like now that I watch it, it's like, oh, that was totally staged.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think Seoul also, or maybe all of Korea also has like the fastest internet in the world. That was like, mandated by the government.
But it was like a super duper pro internet society in a way that Japan was like, we're cool. We don't need the internet.
Right.
So, so it's just gone in two different directions. So I think Tokyo is where you go for the like digital detox. If you want the really analog experience that doesn't feel cutting edge, and the places I like to go in Tokyo now are the like places that have been around for 50 years or old things, and Seoul's really good. The new
That's
things.
the Matrix. Seoul is the Matrix.
And so, Tokyo used to be known as like the most cutting edge place. And I think Seoul's replaced that. But what's cool, I don't know if you know this, but if you fly from Tokyo to Seoul, it's 90 minutes. I mean,
Wow.
it's so close. So you can go to these two places and get these two fantastic experiences that are really different.
Tokyo almost has like a retro futuristic feel to it these days where it's like, this was the most cutting edge shit in like 1983.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything analog. So like if you use a Japanese website,
Everything has like knobs and is tactile.
Yeah, anything tactile works. So like trying to pay your taxes on the Japanese website is just impossible. Like it's like, oh, you need Chrome 4.3 for this. It's like, how did you do that? But then if you like go to the train station and you put 4 tickets in at once and 3 of them are backwards and some of them are cut in half, like they all come out like perfectly like 1, 2, 4. So anything analog is.
But you got to do taxes on GeoCities.
Yeah. So it's like and so for a long time it's like Japan needs to catch up. Like this is embarrassing now. I'm like, thank God that Japan was behind because we need somewhere in the world to be like the analog place.
Yeah.
And that's why everything's great.
So how do you feel then when you come to New York? How do you like if we think of these
Third world country,
two ends of this spectrum with like the Matrix and this retro futurism? Like where's New York in that?
It's a shithole country.
New York.
Yeah, be nice.
I mean, The buildings are beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you ever look up? Like, just look up. I was up on, what is it, like 7th and 51st. And I just looked up in this building, the marble engraved, the carving.
Not the billionaire's phallus.
Yeah.
On 56 or 57.
I don't think it was that one,
Okay.
but it was just, there's nothing like that
Right.
in Asia. And you're just like, wow, this. So New York's got that going for it.
Cool. Buildings.
It's got some,
Yes.
it's got some grit.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like
There's probably some other things.
You're being very diplomatic.
Yeah.
Diplomatic, as James would say.
Is there something kind of going back to like, the cultural exchange between Japan and America? Is there something trend driven or niche happening in Japan that you think will very soon hit the shores over here?
Not to dodge the question, but I do think the thing I just said about rejecting digital culture, like, I think that's coming. Like, I do think we hit this peak.
Are you being hopeful when you say this?
Yeah. No, but like, I think people are getting bored with being on their phones all the time.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a different direction. It's going to go that Japanese direction. I would also say, and one of the things that's been cool about Ametora coming out is I get a lot of great conversation with new brands who read the book and are like, we want to be really craft driven. And so that idea that let's not try to sell out and just make things cheaper and care about profit, but really make great things. Like, I think that trend's coming.
Really?
I think you meant something like, snow cones.
Yes,
Snow cones are coming.
yes.
You just want like the
Snow
list
cones?
of 4
Snow
things.
cones?
Yeah, it's
Cool.
a
I
popcorn.
think tactile, like knobs that turn and like, having
Yeah.
like the old iPod, kind of like clicking wheel
Yeah.
type shit, I
Yeah.
think is kind of along with that like digital detox or the analogization of shit.
When
agree.
you wrote your book, then Ametora, did you expect it to become this kind of like, I don't want to speak for you here, but maybe this kind of blueprint that newer brands are like looking to, or like a playbook?
I did not think about that at all. And when I was writing it, so I wrote it kind of 2013, 2014. And I was so worried that when it came out, people were like, oh, Japan brands, that was so like 2013.
Damn.
Like that I missed the wave. And they only became more popular from
that
that.
wave
Now, the
had not
reason-
crested yet.
The book almost is doing better now than when it came out.
That's awesome.
And it's because just more people are into Japanese fashion. So I never thought about it as this is a playbook. I was just telling the history.
Right.
And but I think that's what's been cool is just there's so many young people in the West who decided like, I want to make clothes.
Right.
And it's hard to make clothes, right? I mean, the thing that
You're telling us, brother.
The reason Japan still has so many cool brands is because you can make the stuff in Japan.
Right.
And increasingly they're using China or they're using Southeast Asia, but you can still do things in Japan. And, I was on the train from Boston to New York last time I was here, and you're just passing like burnt out brick warehouse after warehouse that those used to be factories.
Textile factories.
Yeah, exactly. Like textiles.
They took our jobs.
Yeah.
We used to make things in this country.
Exactly. So, I think that's all these things I didn't think about. And that's what's, again, cool about writing a book is you're like, here's the history. I hope you find it interesting. And then people take it in different directions.
History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
Ooh, bars.
Back to trends happening over there.
Yeah.
What about trends happening in menswear that you think might make their way over here soon?
I mean, the big fit has come.
Huge pants, definitely a Japanese thing, right?
Yeah, huge pants are a Japanese thing. I think everything's not as big yet. Like, I'm not seeing the really big silhouette jackets.
Really?
Yet.
And when we say big fit, we're being like literal, like things that fit large.
Very large. Yeah.
Like
everything oversized.
like the Japanese
Right.
construction pants.
No,
Ooh.
I think the J. Crew baggy fit, is that what they're called?
Big
giant fit,
giant chino.
fit. The giant chino.
Honestly, not even
was
that big.
close.
Not that big.
Not
They
that
could be,
big.
yeah, not that big. They
And
come
nary a
later.
pleat, I might say.
Yep. But then you got to match it with the big oversized shirt and the big oversized jacket. And so that, I think that is now.
Well, they do a giant
standard.
Oxford. They brought that back as well. So
Yep.
it's almost like they're building. We can build it, and we can
Piece-
build it
yeah.
bigger.
If we build it, they
Piece
will
by
come.
piece, it's coming. But I think that is coming. I think
This guy,
Bigger fit.
Ryo Takashima. Do you know him? This guy? I feel like he was a big big fits guy, but also
Okay.
literally just big, like the big pants and then New Balances was like a thing that he
Look at that
and like,
look.
and like
Oh
songs
yeah,
too.
yeah. New Balance. I mean that is also key to that look, and New Balance is also key to
Like this shit. Look at this.
Yeah,
Look at this shit.
Look at this big ass
That's
fucking
like
fit.
that's literally 1996 mall rat.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
but he makes it look so good. Ryo
But for whatever
Takashima,
reason,
good
like
follow.
the New Balance are the shoes for that look.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
exactly where that
Asics
came
too.
from. Yeah,
And Asics is a Japanese company.
That is
that
true.
is true. New Balance almost feels like it's a, I mean, they're going to kill me for saying this, but like it feels like a Japanese company because you see them so much in Japan. It's just like, it is the basic sneaker.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
I mean, I think they have a dedication to craft that you don't necessarily see out of like the big, fuck the big three. It's just NB.
Yeah.
That is a rap reference. Okay, let's move on to
Sure.
your current book
Yep.
that just came out.
2022.
Okay, still making waves. You wrote a book on status and culture.
Yep.
How much of a nosedive is your status taking by coming onto this podcast?
Oh, guys. The opposite.
Are we big in Japan?
Not yet.
Okay.
Real heads no.
Yeah.
Language barrier. Well,
Yeah.
I'm literally big in Japan at the CP company store.
Right.
Yeah. So like, who
You
the
gotta
fuck
start
is this
somewhere.
half breed?
I think, look, I think podcasting is starting to get bigger in Japan, but it's not. Like radio is really big there, but podcasting is
Right.
Is there a menswear radio show currently?
Not that I know.
Okay.
Do you like
So there's
socialize
aggressive room for
Also,
expansion.
Guys, I think the thing is the throwing fits is a pun that doesn't translate into Japanese. That
like, is
could
this
be
a
some of
podcast
it.
about babies? About upset babies?
Yeah. Okay.
Do you socialize with like a menswear scene there? Or are you just kind of like, I mean, I know you're a chill guy, but like,
Thanks. No, I mean, I go to parties for menswear brands.
okay.
I know.
And what do you
I
have?
mean,
Like,
some of it's work. I mean, the thing is, like, since I also work in that world,
yeah.
Welcome to our life, bro.
I go to, for professional reasons, you go to events.
Networking?
And, like, I went to is this just bragging? But like, I went to a party recently and it's just like, oh, there's the editor-in-chief of Popeye and I got to talk to him about this thing. And there's that guy and we got to talk about this. I don't know.
The
So
United Arrows guy and
Yeah.
and the fucking Poggy,
yeah, so
Yeah.
that was exactly. So I saw Poggy because he's coming out with a book with Rizzoli.
Oh, cool.
shit.
And he asked me to write an essay for it. So I was like, I hadn't seen him and like, oh, hey, is the essay cool? Blah, blah, blah. So,
You ever been to his bar?
I haven't been yet.
Like the secret kind of like
Yes.
he built a bar for
Yeah, I know.
himself
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to get fucked up by himself.
He did talk. Yeah, I saw something where he just loves drinking, right?
Yeah.
He's like,
and karaoke.
He likes me enough to write the essay for his book, but not enough to invite me to the bar.
oh, maybe once the book is published,
Yes,
you could go to
that's-
I'm sure the release party that'll be at the bar for alcoholics.
That makes a lot of sense.
What's your reputation like in the Japanese menswear scene?
I mean, look, this is the other
Are
thing.
you like you're the quirked up white boy?
So Ametora, I wrote in English,
Interesting.
based on all these Japanese sources, and I wasn't even thinking it would come out in Japan. I don't know
Really?
why. It's really bizarre. And my feeling was like, well, people know this stuff. And
Right.
what happened is it came out, and then like no Japanese publishers were that interested in it. And then finally it started getting some buzz in Japan. And then Disc Union, the big record store, they have a publisher and they picked it up. And then we serialized it in Popeye for a year.
Oh wow.
And when it was in Popeye too, like we weren't getting any feedback. And I think it was just in the back of the magazine. No one saw it. So I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to be a thing.
Well, the back of the magazine is actually the
Yeah,
front
you
of the
gotta flip
magazine.
it. You gotta flip it.
reversed.
Exactly. It was in the front of the magazine in a bad way. So anyway, it came out and it did really well. And it's on its 8th printing.
Wow.
Wait, have you sold more books in Japan now than in America?
No. And actually the number one market for Ametora is China.
Whoa,
It
let's go,
sold
baby.
Like 30,000 copies.
Holy
Wow.
shit, dude. Congrats.
Yeah.
This guy's big in China.
Yeah. So, and do you know what it's called there?
What?
No.
Because they had to retitle it. Because they're all titled different, but
Because Ametora is a Japanese
Right,
phrase
right,
for
right.
American
yeah, and also
traditional.
like nobody cares about the like Chinese fashion market's huge, but nobody cares about American traditional.
Mm.
So they care about streetwear.
Right.
So they renamed it what translates to Harajuku cowboy.
That's sick, dude.
And I was like, let's not call it that. And he's like, we know what we're doing, and they knew what they were doing. So that's
when
that's
you
what
go to
really won
China, it's like, yo, look, it's the Harajuku Cowboy.
Yeah, that's-
Yeehaw, motherfucker.
It's a fire nickname.
I haven't been yet where anyone said that, but and also
We
cowboy
got a chill weeb over here.
is because jeans is cowboy pants.
Okay.
Cowboy pants.
Yeah, that's the
Fire.
literal translation in Chinese.
Well, we're going to steal that expeditiously.
So anyway, so it came out in Japan and it's done well in Japan and people read it and like it, which is incredibly gratifying.
Right. I mean, that's the
'cause-
ultimate sign, like seal of approval or
Right,
a cosign,
right.
whatever.
So
the fuck.
in that sense, like I'm in Popeye probably one every 2 or 3 issues and in
Nice.
Men's Club and
Tight.
all those things. So I'm just trying to be objective.
How do these, because like every so often we'll see, you know, an American or a New Yorker, like they pop up in Popeye. Popeye has an office here, right?
No, but
They don't?
have a
They used to.
scout.
Okay.
They don't even have
And
an
what, they're
office.
just fucking walking around, like going to like Shy's Burger pop-ups and like finding Mr. Mort on the street? Like,
I think what happens is they're like, we're going to do a New York issue, and then whoever their scout is
Okay.
like, how about these people? And then they kind of
Well, just a Mordecai geotag.
Yeah.
They put an Apple AirTag on his fucking chinos, dude.
what are the like tropes at Japanese menswear events? Like in New York, it's like, oh, cool, a fucking shitty Italian beer and a vintage car and some fucking mahogany wood with some art books.
Yeah.
What is it in Japan? Same shit.
Pretty much the same.
Beer
They
lasers.
probably
Oh,
have.
beer lasers. Fuck
Dude.
those.
Are you saying like a party or the store?
Like an
itself?
event. Like an event.
Yeah.
An event, they'll have. I don't think it's that different.
What's the hors d'oeuvre situation?
Just like
looking
the music will be less punishing.
Okay. How are
Like,
the
you can
hors d'oeuvres?
actually
Less
like,
aggro.
talk.
Less aggro.
Yeah,
What are the hors d'oeuvres looking like?
the hors d'oeuvres are. It depends.
Okay.
This is a hard question. It's not that interesting.
Well, James,
all right.
James and I, when we saw you at the Victor, was that Victor pop up?
that was for. What was it for? It was for the Cause Human Made thing, but it was Jupiter,
Right.
The auction site. I think that was the part.
But at the store, they had imported the beer lasers, which is awesome, where they can fucking put some cool.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
I've never
shit.
seen but I've only seen that here. And they
Oh,
also-
really?
They also had a whole selection of Suntory whiskeys that I've
Yes.
never seen.
Oh, really?
They're like, oh, would you like this 35 years? Like, yes.
American
yes,
Yes,
I
I
would.
would absolutely.
Where I've never been to a party. With
When
that stuff in
will
Japan.
American beer technology catch up with Japan, where we have those robot pourers where we're going to put all barkeeps out of business and just like you put a glass down and you
Yeah.
know?
You really want to make more people unemployed in the United States?
No, but I would like the perfect pour. every
Beer
single
wenches
time.
are people too, by the
That's
way.
true.
What's your favorite Japanese beer?
If of the big bland four, probably Ebisu.
Bland.
Ebisu.
Like,
Excuse you.
But like the craft beers are so good now. And like
Are they all made? And they're all made in Japan. They're not
Yeah, like-
importing like
like
Voodoo
Tim-
Ranger.
well, they are. They do.
Oh my god!
They're importing all of the like major craft beers, but then there's
Ew.
a couple of local
Gross.
companies that are great. But like a 3% or 4% session IPA or whatever, those are incredible.
You're an IPA guy?
But like these session IPAs aren't have.
No, I
less-
understand. I'm just
Oh, is that
saying.
like is that old
That's
fashioned?
that's a generational thing for sure. Well, you don't fuck with like
Like
Asahi
highballs?
Super Dry.
yeah.
Super Dry is terrible.
What?
It's great. Super Dry is good if you
Orion?
want a beer with
Orion.
no. Orion's pretty
What about
good. If you're in Okinawa,
What about a Kirin Ichiban?
Kirin Ichiban's good.
Okay. Sapporo?
Those are fine, but they're just not. Like,
Sure.
What do you call the big
interesting.
bland four?
Yeah, like so.
Asahi, Sapporo,
Super
Kirin.
Dry,
As an alcoholic, like Pog, I'm offended.
Kirin, premium malts.
Mm.
And Ebisu. So out of
What's
those
your-
Ebisu's, it's the fancy one.
What's your kombini order at like when you hit the 7-Eleven or the Lawson or Family Mart?
Like a Wilkinson's club soda in a interesting flavor, like a seltzer.
Did you get
the cafe latte, like iced cafe latte that doesn't have sugar in it.
Ooh.
Oh, some of them are really sweet.
Yeah,
Too
so
sweet.
you gotta avoid that.
Do you fuck with the fried chicken there? So good.
Sometimes like
Egg salad
I went to the
sandwiches.
gym and I was like, I'm really hungry and I need something. And they had like the yakitori at the convenience store. And it's like, that's pure protein right there.
Yeah.
So
And I bet you it fucking slapped too, right? It was delicious.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, this is the biggest like cliche in the world, but you would not eat the hot dog at a American 7-Eleven.
Well, speak for
Well,
yourself.
yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Present
But-
company excluded.
Yeah,
But you
right.
eat the yakitori at the Lawsons or whatever. So,
dude.
but you know, like this is the thing
Best.
that is a little annoying is that all of those convenience store chains have standardized all the product. So what used to be cool is you would go to Hokkaido or you go to Okinawa and they would have like local
Delicacies.
coffees and all these local brands. And now it's like you just go to 7-Eleven everywhere and they have the 7-Eleven brand
Okay.
thing. So
Right.
it's a little
Damn,
monoculture.
Trash. Fucking globalization.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a theme within status and culture, right? Is that if everyone has access to everything, how can one utilize or leverage knowledge and information because everyone is just like knows the same shit?
Yep.
Our question for you is, what is W. David Marx's 50,000 foot view on clout chasing?
I mean, clout chasing is real and it's natural and we can't avoid it.
It's like human nature.
It's human nature. I mean, it's human nature in the society that we're in.
Okay.
And I don't believe that the great apes have clout chasing. So
Well-
let's be clear about that.
All right.
But I don't think it's a sin. Like I think people should like not think about these things. It's like, oh, that guy's signaling for status. Like everybody's signaling for status. Like if you're not signaling for status, you're also signaling for status. Right?
How do you signal for status?
Yeah.
By writing a book, being like, I know all the shit. You're doing that. I know what that is.
Oh, I literally wrote the book on it, so I'm good, bro.
Yeah. So that was my move. But no, I think everybody's got status moves. There is clout chasing. It's just, how everyone has a variable sense of how much they want and what they want to do. But my point is that culture kind of comes out of that competition. And some of that competition is good for culture, right? It's cool. Like, when people were trying to outdo each other, when Glenn O'Brien's trying to outdo everybody in the 80s, be like, oh, I know this band before you do. Well,
he did outdo everyone, by the way.
and that was good for culture.
Yeah.
So I was the place I'm staying. My friend had a copy of Madonna's book Sex, which I'd not seen in a long time. And it's like, actually, even in our world of hardcore pornography, it's actually way more
you got aroused
than I think.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna state that on the record, but
I gotta use your bathroom.
You're like, wow, Vanilla Ice holding Madonna.
Yeah.
Hot.
There's a lot of Vanilla Ice in there, which people don't remember, but
there's a lot of Vanilla Ice.
But the whole thing is like, she's referencing Mapplethorpe and all this downtown New York stuff. In a way that was really provocative for culture. In like,
I remember even as a kid, I remember it being this huge, crazy controversy because she was like the most famous person in America and she made a porno.
Yeah. It was like the most famous person in America who was like, I'm going to bring downtown New York, Little Brian to the masses. And so like that kind of thing is like clout chasing at that level. I don't think Glenn O'Brien would say he was clout chasing. He was above it or whatever, but
but he needs to find and surface the next cool thing.
Yeah, that's
that
what
no one
moves
else had
stuff
yet.
forward. And I think that's so I'm writing this new book that's a cultural history of the 21st century. Oh, and it's about kind of the failure of
all 24 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's coming out next year, so there'll be a little bit about 2025 in it, but under the dictatorship of Trumpistan. So
how much real estate is podcasting getting in that book?
Sorry?
How much real estate is podcasting going to get in that book?
Podcasting will get some real estate. Now that you've mentioned it.
Yeah. I don't know if you need a quote.
If you had to summarize the first quarter century of the 21st century.
Yeah.
What do we talk about, my man?
I guess that's the thing is like everyone sold out and everything became so marketed from like the content creation itself became so templated. It's like all these streaming shows are pretty good and they all have this formula where you're like, yeah, I'll watch another episode. But then you watch the whole thing. You're like, yeah, it was all right. It was B plus. And so everything's a B plus instead of people chasing really like, I'm going to do this extreme crazy thing.
What a megalopolis. Sounds like a swing and a miss. Sounds like
that is a big swing.
Yeah. So there's fewer big swings
but no studio he had to finance that movie himself, right? Because no one was like, this is not going to be.
Yeah. And there's just also used to be more stuff where, I mean, like I was just writing about Chocolate Rain, the Tay Zonday song.
Chocolate Rain.
And so like, okay, so this crazy song is like an internet hit and Dr. Pepper's like, you want to do Cherry Chocolate Rain, don't you? He's like, hell yeah. And like, he sells out in like 10 seconds.
Right.
And so there was just no sense of like, you know what? Cool. I'm just doing this for my people. It's not really for everybody. And so I think the internet, because the audience is immediately global.
Yeah.
And if someone comes to you, is like, here's this plate of money, like, and no one said no.
Yummers.
Everyone's Judas Iscariot.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we don't fuck with Dr. Pepper, but we do fuck with Baja Blast, a PepsiCo product. And if Dr. Pepper is also PepsiCo, we fuck with Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
I think it's
love Dr.
Coca-Cola.
Pepper.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I think you're thinking of Mr. Pibb.
Oh, that is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. We prefer medical professionals.
Are you a cultural Marxist? Not Marxism like communism, but like culture is propelled by the machinations of just like economics.
This is this can
it's in the name.
This can go really granular.
Let's get deep, baby.
I think like there's a lot of really insightful cultural theory that looks at the role of economics and economic structure and class structure on the culture that comes out of it. And most certainly in Status and Culture, I write about how classes battling each other creates culture and creates different aesthetics. So I totally into that.
So
believe in that.
White people stealing from poor black people to make culture.
Yeah. And that part also is appropriation. I mean, and it was a huge change in culture in the 20th century that some white kid would be like, I'm going to get clout from going to this jazz club that you've never heard of, right? Instead of I'm just in this totally elitist white world. So coolness was this revolutionary status change, right?
Right.
All that is fine. The thing that I'm not like a political Marxist in the sense that I think all the status stuff exists without even capitalism, right?
Really?
And so you don't need specifically capitalism to have people vying for status. Like that's a layer under the economy. It's just that capitalism pushes it to certain directions.
To the extremes.
Sorry?
To the extremes.
Yeah.
To the extremes, or just also to the lowest common denominator. And that's the part that's sad. And the thing with AI too.
That's
now,
also an extreme, as south as possible.
Yeah. So AI and capitalism are both pushing things to be as bland and conventional as possible. And the whole point of art and the whole point of criticism too, like before this poptimism stuff, was just be like, let's all celebrate the stuff that isn't lowest common denominator. And part of that is talking shit about like stupid cookie cutter sold out things and
hating.
So, hating is critical.
Interesting.
And so like there became
Love to hear
the
it.
poptimist moment became kind of like, hey, don't hate on Ashley Simpson just because she's lip syncing.
Right.
And so it's like, well, what's the point of being a singer if you
not
can't
gonna
even
sing.
sing?
If you can't
And then
sing.
it was like, and you know, I'm writing about this now in the book. It's like, well, then maybe you don't even need a singer. So Paris Hilton is like a pop star who doesn't even sing.
Stars Are Blind is a fucking certified banger. Though, okay, I will not have any.
Give that shit a
hate
whole
on
chapter
that.
in your book.
With,
bro.
Stars Are Blind, which she wrote with an acoustic guitar as an auteur. No, oh man, I read Paris Hilton's autobiography.
Oh wow, how was that?
And you know, I think she wants you to think I'm so much more complicated than you think I am, and you do think that, and then you get to the end, you're like, you were the most psychopathic Machiavellian person. Because her whole thing is like, you know, you can't really criticize Paris Hilton because Paris Hilton's like it's like a social construct.
Yeah,
Like,
The idea of Paris Hilton.
I'm doing a bit, everybody.
I'm bigger than Jesus.
but do you think that there's any sort of backlash to the notion that everything, like you said, is served up immediately to a globalized audience? It can be the biggest thing at the moment. You know, you have movies that are like created in America, but knowing that they need to find an audience in China, so we're not going to have any like sex scenes. Do you think there's a backlash to that now, where it's like, you know, somebody wrote about how Challengers is like such a sexualized movie, and you don't see that in Hollywood anymore, or like John Caramanica was saying that kids in fashion now, they don't like, they find one thing and they go super deep because they have the information and the access to like infinite imagery and infinite references on this like one super hyper specific thing.
Right.
Do you think there's a backlash to the lowest common denominator of like culture?
yeah, that is happening currently.
Yeah, but it's not really resulting in a movement. Like it could. Like I'm optimistic. I do think that we hit some sort of wall with, do we want more technology in our lives? And I think people are starting to be like, nah, we're good. Like
I'm straight.
we
on
got all we need. And AI, I think everyone's like, great, AI is just going to take over culture. And people are like, this is terrible. So it's going the other direction. I could see it going that way. I mean, I thought Dune was good. Like that.
Just good?
That was great. I loved it.
Thank you
I loved it.
for clarifying.
And it was, but it was also like, it was science fiction for adults, right?
Well, the source material is incredible.
Yeah.
So like it's,
Exactly.
you know.
So I think there's some good signs, and, you know, again, with craft culture, with like physical goods, things are moving in the right direction, right? Like there's more people making high craft artisanal things than ever before in the history of the world.
Sure, see
probably.
it.
So that's all great. But you know, like on the thing, when did John Caramanica say this? What did he say?
A few months ago when he was on the pod. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, I think people are going really deep in, okay. So what I worry about is like some kids like, oh, I really want to know about mod culture. So they spend a day learning everything about mod culture. And then the next day they're like, today I'm learning about
They move on.
grunge or whatever. And they just move on, and then it doesn't really stick. And so
Versus the rockabillys that are still 65 years old,
Yeah,
fucking
totally.
rocking out in
living
Harajuku.
And this is the thing that like I've also been thinking about, which is if you think what is one of the biggest sources of slang these days, it's drag queen culture.
Sure.
Right. And drag queen culture is intense and people are in it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to be in that world.
Slay.
And so
Damn, David is mother.
Yeah. Mother's mothering.
So the problem is like if people are skirting around, like I'm deep on this today, and there's this. I think I talk about this in the book. There's this like wiki aesthetics wiki that's like here's every aesthetic in the world. So it's like
cottagecore,
exactly. And so you can just like bounce. I'm like
Larry clone.
Today I'm cottagecore, and tomorrow cheesehead or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
is that bad?
It's from some sort of like graduate thesis, like postmodernism, and
so
that's
it's fast
all fine.
food kind of.
Yeah, but it doesn't create the stickiness. And the thing about culture that the culture that really shows up and people are like, whoa, like we got to pay attention to this because it seems authentic. It's like a group of people isolated who get really into something. And then when they get really into it, it comes out the other end really weird, and they seem like we don't care about your mainstream thing. We're just doing our thing.
Well, so then how do you find things that are like stick to your rib, or to use a James term, that tickles your pickle? Like, how do you discover stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if there's a systematic way to do it. And then also we all are omnivores too now. Like there's nobody who's just like, I only listen to rockabilly, because you just like, what's wrong with you? And so like, I like Dune, I like 100 gex, and there's so many people I'm like, 100 gex are great, and they're just like, what is wrong with you? Like, but I'll also listen to like jazz. Like I like jazz, I'll listen to 100 gex. It's fine.
The notes they don't play.
And so
because of heroin.
It's the hyper they don't pop.
So it's how do you find stuff? I don't know how to find stuff.
No, but also at a certain age, are you just like kind of settled into like you're like, I like what I like?
No,
You're so curious.
Bored. I want to be entertained.
Okay.
So I want things with that with stimulus, and I would love them to be new.
Are you discovering things through the internet? Through like Instagram and fucking Twitter holes and shit?
You're like never on IG. I feel like you don't really use it.
I don't use it to be like, here's my fit pic.
Which we would love, by the way.
Okay, so here's a really good example. Like IG is great if you. So I make music and I like have synthesizers. If you want to find like the weirdest new synthesizers, IG is great because there's like people playing with it. There's the brands themselves being like, here's this thing. And then there's all these tutorials of people showing themselves making music that just like you want to put a gun to your head and that's like, because it's all lowest common denominator stuff.
Got it.
So it's like Instagram can be a discovery mechanism and also can just be the worst of like bland. I'm just going to make things that sound, I'm going to hit a button and it's going to be just like at your own.
Yeah.
Could you maybe quickly settle a debate that we've had on this show?
Sure.
And I'm very curious where you stand on this. Is good taste inherent, or can it be learned?
Absolutely can be learned.
Can be taught.
It can be taught. It can be learned. So the whole thing is, let me break down good taste for you. It's four categories.
Oh,
first, knowledge.
Umami? Oh, knowledge.
Yeah. What did you say?
Umami. Sweet, sour.
That's the sixth today, right?
I thought you said money.
No.
Okay. So knowledge. And so when you say there's, old money people who have good taste, it's because they grew up and it's just around them. Like they don't have to learn it.
The osmosis is
just the osmosis. They know how to talk. They know how to move. They know how to wear, all that. But you can learn that knowledge. The second is what I call congruence, so that everything fits together. Like you got to know not only what are the brands or what are the things, but how do they fit together? So you could be somebody who dresses this way, but the car is going to kind of also match the home. And like you shouldn't be living in a hovel and then have a Porsche outside, right? Like it's all got to work.
You should be rolling your Remova back to 36J.
Or wearing your rent, right? Because you have no bed frame.
Right. The third is some sort of originality.
Okay.
Like you got to break out at some point, but that's like late in the game. Like you want to learn as much as you can, and then you want to do one little move where people are like, oh, that's new. Yeah. And then the fourth is authenticity, which is that at the end of the day, it's got to tell your story. And like, I think that's a formula for good taste. And that could mean that good taste comes from like someone could be really into hip hop and have great taste, and someone could be really into streetwear. Someone could be really into prep. Like there's not a world in which there's one good taste now, right? There's a lot.
Thank God.
But it can be taught, but it's a long process.
Yeah.
That like getting through all four of those takes
a journey
years.
without a destination, you might say.
Exactly. And so, I mean, the thing that I think in the United States and Japan, one big difference is in like take bands. Like I think when I was growing up being in like garage bands is immediately be like, I need original material. And in Japan, it's like, well, we're going to be a Radiohead cover band for 5 years.
Right.
And then at some point we'll do other things. And I think if you're like a young kid trying to learn how to dress well, like don't try too hard to pull off like, I'm going to do this new thing. Like just learn the basics, keep your head down.
I'm gonna wear these jeans as a shirt.
Yeah.
I saw that in Soho. It was horrible.
Yeah. You know, and
course you did.
someone who can pull that off can maybe pull it off.
No,
but you
dude,
can't.
certain things can't be pulled off.
So you
could pull the jeans off of your arms and wear them properly.
maybe you can wear the jeans like as a
Cowboy
sweater.
pants.
Yeah. I don't know. But the point is like, just don't try so hard to be original.
And
so
you got to
quickly.
fuck up. You got to fall down to get back up.
I agree with that.
I get knocked
anyways,
down.
I think
get back up again. It's the Chumbawamba. Chumbawamba philosophy is actually what informs all good taste.
They did not do that song just to make the money. They did the song for the philosophy.
Dude,
but
I drink a vodka drink.
Yeah.
I drink a whiskey drink.
Yeah, so I think taste can absolutely be taught, but you gotta have the capacity to learn.
That was a tub thumping answer, my friends.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a question about arguably one of the most tasteful men in modern society, Nigo.
Yep.
How do you start working with Nigo?
So I wrote my senior thesis in college about a bathing ape.
Wow.
And this was in 2001. And so
Is that just an excuse to like buy and wear babe?
well, no. So in 98, I was in Tokyo and I discovered Babe and I was like, well, and just on a personal level, I was like, this is so cool. But I went back to school and I was talking to my professors and I was like, oh yeah, this crazy thing. I waited in line 3 hours to buy a t-shirt and they were like, oh, that's your thesis.
Oh shit.
And I'm like, I can't do this as my thesis.
Just
it's gotta be boring.
Yeah.
And everyone was really supportive and I got like a scholarship to go like do the research. And so I showed it back up in 2000 and did a bunch of research and I had asked Nigo for an interview and he was just out of town or something. So he couldn't do it.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I'm busy that weekend.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm also busy that other weekend.
And so, also just a sidebar in 99, this was a time in young people will not understand this, but no brands had web pages in 1999. So I had made with this guy, Mark, the first unofficial Bathing Ape webpage.
Wow.
A fan page?
A fan page in 1999. But that was the only thing on the internet that looked authoritative about a bathing ape.
What was the traffic looking like?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was hosted on my university server,
Hit
which
City.
was funny. But like New York Times, and you can go read this article from 99, they wanted to write about Bathing Ape. And so they couldn't get anyone on the record about it. And so they called me and I was like, yeah, I'll take this interview. I'm the expert. So I did this interview and I'm quoted in the piece. And then Stash and Futura, who ran Recon, which was like the only store that sold it, were just like, who the fuck do you think you are? And at the time I was like,
wow,
I was kind of scared of them, but it was, like, what was I doing? That was like
Scarcity
a really,
makes the heart grow fonder.
and that's like an amazing article because it's like
All right, hold
the
on, we're
artist Rostar is quoted in it, and Eric Vatek.
You have a
who
lot of
does
quotes here.
Capital.
Yeah,
Mr.
You're
Marx.
20 years old.
Yeah.
You told your story about a bizarre shopping trip to buy a simple $48 t-shirt, which in $1999, that's a lot. Finally, you're able to buy a shirt with an ape and the company's motto, ape shall never kill ape. Do you still have this t-shirt?
I do. And it's like,
Woo!
I
That's some sentimental shit.
I have a lot of vintage streetwear pieces in the basement, but some of them have just like gotten these weird stains that you can't get out anymore. And I don't know what they are. It's
gross.
gross.
Ape cum. There's a definite attempt to confuse the public, said Mr. Marx, 20, who set up an unofficial bathing ape website when he returned to Harvard for his junior year. He posts updates on where to find bathing ape clothing, buying tips, and explanations like, quote, Nigo is the president and director of the label, but it is unclear whether he actually designs any of the clothes, Mr. Marx said.
Shots.
It's like this secret society, and there's not that much info about it.
And this is totally my misinterpretation of everything. So
It's kind of Japanese streetwear in a nutshell, right? This isn't just bathing ape.
And like but the main point was like I was just looking online, and online this is like a desert in online. This is pre-Google or
Which, by the way, Japanese brands, it's still kind of hard to like find their websites like intelligible.
But then it was basically like 4 websites had something about bathing ape. So we were just piecing together what we could find. I was wrong. And anyway, I felt very paranoid. It was what I'd say, that like they were out to get me for what I'd done. And so I got to interview Nigo in 2006 for Nylon Guys.
Nice.
For guys. And that
Big
went pretty
rip.
well. And then I kind of got in with his people.
So did he know you at this point? He knew you as like
I don't think
the
so.
guy
I
Gene
don't-
who's
I don't
obsessed
even-
with Babe.
I hope he doesn't listen to this because I don't even know if he
think-
knows that about me now. But
Breaking news.
I had done, I guess like when I was doing Ametora, I went to his people and said, would he be interviewed? And he ended up not being interviewed, but he was supportive of the project.
Okay.
And then when it came out, I think he had read it or was familiar with it. And then I got to meet him a couple times. And then
Harajuku Cowboy.
yeah. And then like the third meeting, they were like, oh, do you want to join the board of directors for Human Made? Which
Whoa.
I did not expect that was gonna happen. So I joined the board last year, and
The Otsumo Overlord.
and it's an honor to have that journey. So
Is there something about Nigo, excuse me, that would surprise people now that you know him personally and you are in his employ?
he is, I mean, I think people know he's quiet and he just doesn't miss. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Well, he did miss an opportunity to take a photo with us at that event.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fuck. That was embarrassing.
I think that he, whatever you think of like his depth of knowledge, it's beyond that. Like that's
unfathomable.
That's the thing that like always blows me away, which is like, yeah, he got some 501s or whatever, but it's like, no, he's got everything. And
He's
it
got
does
the 502s.
like I was there and we were talking about The Simpsons or something. He's like, hold on. He's like, I've got all the DVDs. Look, you know, so
Oh,
it's like
shit.
whatever
What's
you're
his favorite
into, season? Don't know about that one, but like whatever you're
6.
into, he's way more into that.
Yeah.
And it's
but does
kind of exciting.
is it kind of like low-key annoying that he's like he knows everything?
But he somehow
Or he's just the
pulls
nicest
it
guy.
off.
Be honest.
He's nice, yeah.
Can Nigo speak English? I think he can.
I don't know if he can, because I've translated for him before.
Right,
So it's, since my official capacity was to speak English for him, I think he understands probably more than he.
Okay.
So you
he's
could listen to this podcast.
He's like Shohei Ohtani in that respect.
I have not seen Ohtani in the interviews, but Ohtani does not speak English, right?
No, but I'm pretty sure he can like understand more than maybe he's like letting on.
I mean, in general,
no one got my by the way, my Ippei Ohtani reference when I said, oh, he's a Japanese translator. Bet.
Oh, I didn't get it either. Wow, dude. See, honestly, this is why you
I
want
have
a
not
Pulitzer, bro.
embezzled $40 million.
No, you haven't.
Okay.
You're on the record.
Let me delete
just
that
maybe 20
question.
20 million yen.
So in your capacity as a translator for Nigo, who's the craziest person you've been a go-between between
I
Nigo?
did it
and-
twice.
Oh, really?
Oh,
so you're not like asking Yeet to take his shoes off when he comes into the house?
No, I like Nigo's got another personal assistant, Dan,
Right, who doesn't steal money and place bets.
Yeah.
Got it.
He's the one mostly who does all that work.
Okay.
I was just brought in for 2 specific interviews.
Has there been a piece of wisdom or advice that you've gleaned off of Nigo that is like really stuck with you as like the best thing that you were able to absorb via osmosis from him?
I mean, the thing that I've realized recently in working with Human Made is everything I know about taste kind of comes from him and how he ran Babe. And so I'll sometimes be like, oh, that's a good idea or that's a bad idea or whatever. And before I could express it, he would express the same thing. And it's like, oh, because all my thoughts are just stolen from you. So
You've been incepted.
yeah. So I do like, I don't think it's one thing. It's just, I think, and the world has been incepted by Nigo in the sense of like, I mean, listen to
He's like some type of compass
Pharrell
of
or
good
someone
taste.
talk about it. Yeah. You know, it's
Kanye,
like,
et
you
cetera.
don't need me to say this. He doesn't need me to say this, but he really got something about what Stussy was doing, but then extended it into this whole other world. And, you know, and I'm writing about this in the new book too, but like Japanese streetwear infected the hip hop world and then infected.
Well, infected makes it sound like a disease or something.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Well, Japanese
Inspired.
Japanese streetwear is at the heart of the Wayne Clips beef,
Right.
right? Which then
Right.
became Drake Push, which then became Drake Kendrick. You know, so like all this
Honestly.
shit happening
It all
right
goes
now.
back
Yo,
to Babe.
true.
It all
Maybe
goes back
it
to
is a
Nigo.
disease.
It all
Yeah.
goes back to
Yeah,
Nigo.
I was about to be all back to
Damn,
Babe.
they always want to blame a fucking POC.
Yeah, for real.
So no comment on that. But yeah, so like I think that his approach to taste and commerce and how they merge, like everyone's been paying attention has inherited his ideas on it.
Do you think? I mean, I guess you're not on TikTok, but like,
You don't know
do
that.
kids do the Zoomers and Gen Z like? Do they appreciate and know like Nigo's his level of influence?
I don't know.
Probably not, right? Because like
No.
it did start in like the late '90s.
I think you got to be a millennial or geriatric millennial to understand him as the cultural barometer, right?
Yeah. I mean, this
as the source.
I guess it's like,
Yeah,
do you
true.
care if like Pharrell knows?
Well,
You
if
know,
they're
or-
looking at if they're looking at Virgil, right, as like
Yeah.
the god,
and Virgil
right?
knew, you know?
Absolutely,
Yeah, without
and
doubt.
and who did he kind of not like was inspired by or learn from? Nigo,
Yeah.
right.
The family tree's roots are Nigo.
Totally.
Yeah.
But and I don't know. I mean, I think about this like Michael McLaren or something. Like with somebody who, none of this stuff starts without him either.
Sure,
like,
right.
does a 22-year-old know who that is? Probably not. Like, but that's okay.
They can learn about him. They can learn about him in 20 minutes on Wikipedia, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
be an expert.
and that's the thing. And that was the kind of knowledge and name dropping.
Go watch the filth and the fury.
90s. He's the bad guy in that movie.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had a store called Sex.
Yeah.
for those,
Yeah.
Check it out.
But he had a
clothes.
store
Not to be confused with Nada's book.
before Sex. It was Let It Ride, and then before that it was Let It Rock. Sorry, and then it was called Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die,
Mm.
and that's where this Japanese brand Cream Soda ripped off the logo.
Isn't there also not Wacko Maria, but another Japanese brand that's kind of rooted in like American motorcycle culture that I think uses that logo, or at least they have it like up on their wall.
Bounty Hunter?
It's yes.
Or Neighborhood, maybe.
Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Neighborhood.
It's their live, laugh, love, or rose all day. It's just
Yeah, no. So like that all comes from McLaren. Like streetwear in Japan, it's a mix of it's like McLaren doing the anti-hippie rockabilly thing that becomes sex, that becomes punk, that becomes seditionaries,
Right.
And then that inspires Hiroshi Fujiwara, and then Stussy comes in, and so it's kind of like a mix of the American surf skate stuff plus the British street stuff.
where did McLaren get his shit from? Oscar Wilde? Like,
Is he just fully original?
I think he was pretty original, and there's a big debate about like he and Vivienne Westwood were together,
Right.
and then and his old partner. There's like this real beef. You should read about it, and I can't tell you what's true, but there's this whole thing where like, well, Vivienne had all the ideas and he ripped her off, and
Wow.
then now McLaren's former, I don't know if they were wife or girlfriend, is like, no, Vivienne ripped him off. It was all his ideas. So there's a big beef between them.
You know what this reminds me of? A little bit of a Gnome de Guerre type situation.
I don't know
The store in New York that
Okay.
was, I don't know. Anyway,
I know the store, but
I don't want to talk about
yeah.
people's personal lives.
Yeah, you brought it up.
More than I already do. I know. I was hoping that you could speak for me. Anyway,
Well-
moving on.
well, David, your last act in this trip to America is you come on to the only podcast that matters.
Yep.
But when you do make your way back here, what's the first thing you simply must do besides go to Target and buy some socks that fit?
Literally, and I've done this twice now, so it's a pattern. I get out a JFK, I get on the air train,
Yeah.
I get off at Grand Central,
Mhm.
and I walk to Sarge's, the Jewish deli.
Mm.
And this time I got a Reuben. Last time I got, I think it's called Sarge's Favorite or something, and it's brisket with gravy and applesauce on potato latkes.
God
Woo.
damn.
And I gotta get that. So I like
Banger.
Jewish
Jewish deli food not big in Japan
is
right now?
not available in Japan. So I
Really?
got-
That's one that they haven't like
it's a- yeah,
perfected.
exactly. And
Smoked
like,
meats.
why was it Wise and Sons or something? One of the San Francisco ones had opened a chain and then it didn't work. And
But there's got to be
closed.
good barbecue in Japan, no?
The barbecue's getting better, and I can also I've gotten pretty good at doing ribs and
Oh,
pulled
nice.
pork. So that's all fine.
What about bagels in Japan? What's the status
bagel?
on?
There's one place in Shirogane that does good bagels, but like literally one. There's like a bunch of chains and they're terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're
There's an
not as
Essa
good as
bagel in
York.
Japan.
Sorry?
There's Essa bagel in Japan.
But I don't think those are good.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that
Just to
there is
license
like,
the
yeah,
name.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like North Face
Uh,
purple label.
No,
But
North Face
Jewish
Purple was
deli-
fire.
Like a good corned beef, hard to have.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I gotta have Jewish deli food and an egg cream.
Mm.
I can make an egg cream, but it's fun.
It's not the same.
I had a root beer float the other day. It was fun. So all that kind of stuff.
So you just eat
corned
like
beef
a
hash.
child.
Yeah, totally. I got to eat that food and then I get on a plane. But that's about it.
Okay.
I mean, like the other thing too is I think I was in Paris last year or in London, and I was kind of trying to think like what could you not even get in Japan? Like what brand? And Drake's actually is like hard to get in Japan.
Ooh,
you know?
That's
So-
surprising.
Yeah, and that's some weird quirky thing. But so like going to Drake's is fun in London because it's like, well, I can't get this in Japan, but like almost everything's available in Japan. And then
Clothing-wise.
in the last 20 years have figured out how to do like every single food that I want to eat. And so like, okay, I want to do red beans and rice. So my dad's from New Orleans, so I can cook a lot of that stuff. So like, okay, I want to make red beans and rice. Well, I got to get the ham hock. Well, there's no ham hock, but I can find the one Vietnamese grocery that's selling the ham hock that I
Right.
can go and then salt it myself or whatever. So I now I culture my own buttermilk,
Oh, wow.
for example.
You're a fucking good old boy.
yeah. So I
Bringing the South to
Exactly.
to the East.
So I can do all that now. I found
That's
the
a
one
cultural
place with baby
Dude,
back
why don't you
ribs.
open up a fucking Southern soul food spot in
Bro.
Japan? You'd kill it.
Hey,
Go crazy.
Never say never.
Bro.
Yeah, and they'll let you do blackface over there.
No.
That is, I have seen that. It is.
Yeah, we
quite
talked about
disturbing.
that on the Louis Armstrong clip
Yeah.
that goes viral, or James went to it. What do you, Stevie Wonder?
With Stevie Wonder.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling that is there's a reduction in blackface, but I think it's
Thank God.
it should be 0, and I don't think it's 0 yet.
Right.
It's not 0. What do you miss about when you're here? What's the thing you miss most about Japan?
Not having to worry about my physical safety.
Oh,
That's a
Shit.
good one.
okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Nailed it.
Yeah. For guys and girls lucky enough to go over there.
Yep.
And by the way, the most fucking guy jeans I've ever seen in Japan. And this is like, it's definitely like record, setting tourism after COVID.
Yep.
The weak ass yen.
I think literally April was the highest
Wow.
number ever.
It's nuts. What is the biggest mistake or faux pas you see foreign tourists make when they're visiting Japan?
Being really loud.
Yeah. I'm fucked.
Being really loud on the
Yeah,
train.
Lawrence can't go there.
And
American.
dressing way too casually.
Oh,
Just like
Slutty?
Slobby?
short shorts. Don't show your stomach. Don't show your arms.
Don't show your toes.
Probably not.
Yeah.
so pretend you're in the Middle East.
I wouldn't go that far, but just dress respectfully.
Have you had I don't know where you live in Tokyo necessarily, but have you had any local haunts ruined because the fucking honkies started coming
Okay,
through?
so for a long time that was not an issue because everybody goes to this list of you got to go to Shibuya, you got to go to Harajuku, you got to go to Akihabara, you got to go to Ginza. So if you just kind of avoid those places and the main strips, usually we're fine.
Yeah.
And then because of TikTok and Instagram and all these travel vloggers,
Mm-hmm.
I went to this totally mom and pop cafe called Hekaloon that is between Toranomon and Shinbashi. You would not go there unless you knew about it. And literally it was only neighborhood people. You walk in and it has a sign that says, for smoking cigarettes, smoke up to 3, please. It's like that. It's that kind of place. Like you can go there, you can smoke 3 cigarettes and then get out. And they have a pudding, the jumbo pudding. And someone on one of these sites, and I don't know if it was in China or it was TikTok, but they posted, here's this pudding. And then there's like a line every morning, 50 tourists trying to get the pudding. And so if you go after they've run out of the pudding, it's back to normal. Like no one's there.
Yeah.
But like in the
You gotta skip the
proprietor,
pudding hours.
it's like 75. And I was like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. He's like, it's fine. I don't, it's good. I'm happy for like anyone to come here, but I don't know. I don't even have a smartphone.
Jesus.
But so like it's starting to creep into you just can't go to a couple of really great places
Bummer.
because the tourists and because the other thing too you have to understand is a great establishment like a cafe or restaurant in Japan has like 10 seats.
Right.
Yeah.
So if 100,000 people see it on TikTok and then like 10% go, like it's done.
Yeah.
Fucked.
It's a wrap.
So there, I just wrote for the Atlantic about
Yes.
the end of cultural arbitrage. And it used to be that like if you knew the place, you would get credit for like telling everybody. But now it's like, well, I'm gonna get clout, but I'm gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
So you got to balance it out. And so
The
I think-
double-edged sword.
So now there's like this term gatekeeping is back, and so the idea is like don't tell people about your
Yeah.
favorites. And I think in Japan we are at a point where you have to
I also think that
be careful.
in Japan, the mistake that I think people make is finding the best sushi. Like that doesn't exist.
Oh, that was the one other thing I was going to say, which is everyone shows up. It's like, I got to eat at this tonkatsu place and I got to eat at this ramen place. It's like, they're all good.
Yeah.
They all
Like-
fucking slap.
Like in
bro.
America,
The
you
floor
will
is
have
here.
a bad meal.
The
Yeah.
floor in Japan is here.
You will,
It's a
not
ceiling.
you will not have a bad meal. And so tonkatsu, like 99% of the ones you go to will be good enough for you and just go and don't line up. At this
No, hell
one
no.
that you
White
gotta
ass
go to.
palate.
My
Yeah.
advice is go to any place that doesn't have any English reviews on Google,
Yeah.
and it's going to be good.
Yep.
And just point at the menu and just be like that, or use Google Translate camera.
I mean, it is really just like the curse of tourism in that everybody's chasing authenticity. And then by everybody chasing authenticity, it makes the places inauthentic. And so it's just it's that paradox. But I had not felt that way for a long time. And the economy needs the support. As somebody who is a guest of a country, I think it's incredibly snobbish to be like, well, I'm here, but you can't come.
Sure,
Everyone
right.
else. So like, I think people should go to Japan and that's fine. It's just for the first time in the last 18 months, I felt like, okay, this is actually creeping into my lifestyle.
Not to be presumptuous, but at this point now it's been over 20 years, right? In your new adopted home. My question for you, David, do you ever dream in Japanese?
I don't dream in Japanese. I curse in Japanese. Like when I'm driving and someone cuts me off, my mind will just go to.
Oh, really?
No, but no one cuts you off in Japan. Come on.
What are some good Japanese curses that you can just drop for us right now?
I don't know if I'm going to do that.
Okay.
But there's no one cuts you off. But
Oshinko.
But for example, there's like all the streets in my neighborhood are what you would consider in the United States one lane.
Yeah.
And they're two-way.
Yeah.
And so like there's a long street where if I go in and then someone on the other side's coming in, like one of us it's like chicken.
And you back up.
And so that guy backs up. And so I'm always like, so in the morning as I'm driving, there's always this SUV that comes from the other side. Every time it's like, oh, you again. You haven't learned like the first 25 times that I'm here first. Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
And also like I curse all the SUVs because the roads are so small. Like
Get this G-Wagon the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Get a hatchback because if you've got a Range Rover that you don't need in the streets of Tokyo, you're just
get a motorcycle, dude. And join a gang.
Yeah. So this is kind of a sidebar, but I was somewhere like at a corporate retreat thing and they had invited an ER doctor to tell us about like working under stress because he has like these 20-hour days where he can't even go to the bathroom or whatever. And I was like, oh, sorry, I know this is a little off topic, but you've been in the ER for decades. What are the like behaviors you shouldn't do as a person? And he was like, don't drink too much, don't do drugs, don't be on a motorcycle ever.
1 out of 3 ain't bad, Lawrence.
Woo! You'll never catch me on a motorcycle, folks. I'll tell you that much.
What I found remarkable last time I was there was I was there for 2 weeks and I counted the number of times I heard a car horn beep on one hand.
Oh yeah,
insane.
So this is a great example of also of why not to like essentialize a culture because people are like, oh yeah, in Japan everyone's so polite, no one beeps. I was reading some book about Tokyo in the 50s and it was like everyone is on their horn at all times. So like at some point they just basically told everybody stop doing that and it stopped. But it's not like some essential Japanese trait that people don't beep the horns. It's just that now the convention is you don't beep your horn.
Okay. David.
I'm always very slow. I'm always like, that guy cut me off 2 minutes ago. And then I like,
delayed.
Yeah.
Rage.
Can't take the Pensacola out of the boy. David, how much money did you make?
It's funny. I heard you ask somebody that last time. I was like, do people answer that question?
No, never.
Well,
never.
Sometimes. Yeah, it depends. I don't know when this comes out, but we got some good answers recently.
Yeah.
Like tell me what's a good answer that's not just like
a
dollar figure.
The best answer I thought was our boy Rob YC. Mm-hmm. He is a black man and he's like, well, I work in film and television and I'm going to tell you what I make because I know that what I make is good and this is what you should make, whatever the color of your skin is. But I know that, POCs, they get taken advantage of where they're like underpaid for their labor. So he actually gave us an accurate answer.
That's
and we're like, yo, that's cool. Yeah. Another guy just said, I make a shitload of money. And that was cool too.
I like that.
Look, this is how I'll spin it is that if you're a young aspiring author or cultural critic or someone who wants to make money on culture, know that there is no money on culture. And when you see people who are living these baller lifestyles and they're authors, that it's not from the books.
What's it from?
It's from trust funds or or they have secret jobs. And so the thing is I had a job I didn't talk about for a long time, which I worked at Google. And that pays a lot.
That was your secret job.
And that finance, that was like my motto was be your own trust fund. So it's like
bars,
work the real job and then take the money and to pursue your hobbies or, pursue your passion is a nicer way to say it. But like I wrote the books while I had a full-time job. Now, I totally burn myself out doing that? Yeah. And that I quit.
Like you worked in the ER or some shit, you might say.
But because I wake up, I write for 2 hours, I would do a full day's work, I would come home and then I had consulting things on the side too. So I went too far and I went kaput and I think like I've been burnt out. And I quit in order to like take freelance and, have this board seat and have this new job that's a 50% role. So I'm like trying to find the right balance. But I think what's important is that this whole industry is built on a fantasy of this lifestyle. And you see people's apartments and stuff. And you're like, how do they afford that on doing this thing that doesn't seem, I don't understand what the revenue is. Now, if you are on Patreon or Substack or something, and those things have revenue streams, then there actually is revenue or something.
Right.
But I make a little money from my books every year, and it's nice, and it pays for, I think, the labor, but it's not enough. If you see photos of me in my house, that did not buy the house. You know?
Right.
Have you ever been tempted, besides the work for Google and YouTube, have you ever been tempted to sell out? Does anyone come to you with a plate of money? I don't know. Because you had talked about how like selling out is just like such an instantaneous, no one gives it a second thought now. It is the norm, right? Has anyone come to you and be like, yo, I'll give you this fucking huge bag if you come write copy for Shein or something?
I think the brands that come to me, like I worked for Beams Plus and Kamakura shirts, and like
Nice.
I love them. And so it's like, I will take the money and have fun with it. So
You weren't paid in made to measure shirts, is what you're saying.
no, I mean I was paid money, and
But you took the money and you bought the made-to-measure shirt.
Yeah,
So
basically,
it's kind of inefficient. It's
virtuous
inefficient.
cycle.
I'm a good customer of those places anyway. But because I do this very specific thing, the brands that appreciate that thing, we're in the same wavelength, and
Sure.
so when they come to me with work, it usually fits. So there hasn't been anyone who's come to me where I'm like, okay, this is just sellout work. I've been blessed in that sense, but also none of that pays enough to live the baller lifestyle. So anyway, so like it's young kids, pay attention, ask hard questions. Where are these people's money coming from? And the thing too is like
Daddy.
being, you asked about good taste, and in status and culture. Some of the reason I wrote that book is to democratize that knowledge, because if you grew up in a rich family, you know this stuff.
Yeah, right.
And if you didn't, you don't. And then you get out in the world and you're like, why am I like,
Why are the
so
rich getting
disadvantaged?
richer? What the fuck,
Yeah.
dude?
And so knowing
The
this
fuck
stuff
is a Roth IRA? A Jewish IRA? A Jewish IRA?
it's important to know these things. And so anyway, so I think, and I contribute to it by having a corporate job and not talking about it and
Right.
pretending like, oh, I'm just a menswear influencer.
I'm just a guy.
And it's not true. It's like you have to have a real job. So the real jobs pay real money, and that is important for things like college education saving,
Sure.
and paying mortgages and retirements and very adult things.
Besides these really adult things, what do you like to spend your hard-earned money on?
And besides synthesizers.
I buy
synthesizers,
something.
yeah.
I'm not like I don't have a collector mindset, which is like people were like, see this guitar, this is a $57,000 guitar. You can't play it. Don't even look at it. Like that Spinal Tap thing. I like buying stuff that's a tool to do a thing. So like if I buy a synthesizer, I'm gonna use the
You're a
synthesizer.
doer.
Yeah.
You're a wearer, a doer,
I buy
a
books.
synther.
I buy books to
reader.
read the books.
Okay.
And like sometimes I buy a lot of used books because I don't, as long as the words are legible, that's all I care about. Like I don't, I'm not a freak about, I don't put anything on ice.
Okay.
Right.
You're a user.
Yeah.
I use stuff. So
I believe it's the term, wear your kicks, kids.
yeah, exactly. So I spend money on pretty,
Adult
I built
stuff.
a house. Building a house is expensive and takes time.
sure.
So I did that, but like on the small stuff, I'm on the stingy side. If
Okay.
anything, yeah.
Respect.
All right. Good Southern boy. David, as someone who is literally an expert on menswear, status, culture, we would love to tap into that big brain of yours.
Yeah, real
for
quick.
just the last question we have for you, and the only podcast that matters. Do you, a user, a doer, a maker, creator, a craftsman, do you have any constructive criticism you would like to give to us?
Yeah. Free 99 consulting.
Let's start with the good,
Oh shit, here we go.
which is
That's all the time we have, folks.
Thank you, David.
I mean, starting with Fuck Yeah Menswear.
Oh.
And it's like a lineage that goes to today. It's that you took this thing that is nascent, like young energy menswear, and you made it your own.
Mhm.
And
Thank you.
it's a unique voice. And I do feel like if you're going to do something, only do it if it's a unique voice.
Facts.
There is, this
So
is
don't
the
even
only,
bother starting a podcast.
this is the
you
only
fucking
podcast that
morons.
matters, but it's also like, it's the only podcast that's like this.
Right, sure.
Right. And so I think that's what really matters. And you're very kind to a lot of guests who are not as aggro.
Mm.
Right. And so
That don't deserve our kindness.
so I like, I don't have any negative feedback.
Ooh, I love it.
Appreciate that.
90 minutes is a lot to ask from people.
Oh, it's an hour 45.
Yeah,
45.
bro. But it flew by, I'm sure.
But then also people are like, oh, I just listened to 1.5 speed. Like it's such a
that's
dehumanizing experience.
That's crazy.
we hear that from some listeners, and I just don't, especially because of the agroness of this show. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how or why you would torture yourself. That's some Guantanamo Bay level shit.
To those listening at 1.5x right now, why would you do that to yourself?
You fucking moron, what are you doing?
Like I think modern society creates so much anxiety, and there's nothing more anxiety driving than like listening to news at 1.5x and just like I don't know.
So chop and screw us. Listen to us at 0.5x.
Yeah,
how about that?
Slow it down.
Shout out H-Town.
No, it's great.
Thanks, buddy.
I love the diversity. It's
Appreciate
just like
it.
bring something new, and you bring something new.
Well, look, man, if Audion wants to start up the podcast marketing segment, wants to fly us out to Japan, bang my motherfucking line. Where can the kids follow you, and what would you like to plug?
I'm gonna plug. Buy the books, Ametora, How Japan Saved American Style.
Ametora, that's like you need to buy that. That is a must-have for any.
It's a foundational text.
And it's not.
If you listen to the show,
it's like it's a history. It's breezy. Status and culture, not breezy. I know. I got the feedback.
who the fuck wrote this shit?
I got the feedback, but it has
a sociologist.
It kind of has the secrets to society if you want to know them. So they're in there.
But it's a brainier read.
Yeah.
It's definitely brainy. It's a slower brainy read. Don't try to read it like all in one sitting. It's taking chunks.
Okay.
I have a newsletter at culture.ghost.io.
Oh, how frequently are you?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Come on, dude.
I get because I'm writing a book now, and so it's like I get sucked into writing the book rather than doing my newsletter. So I haven't done something in about a month, but I try to do something every 2 weeks. But it's been bad. And then otherwise, I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram.
What are your handles? Tell the people.
W. David Marx.
Got it.
All right. W. David Marx, thank you
Thank
for coming
you.
onto the
A
only
living
podcast
legend.
matters for this lively, spirited, honestly, and again, I hope people had their pens out and were fucking jotting down and taking notes like this was a college lecture, because this shit was big brain tier podcasting at 1x or 1.5x.
Yeah.
Chef, take us out.